Hello, my name is Starla Henderson and this is Fronterhouse Quilt blog. And as I've been saying on my blog, we're going to learn how to make the Fronterhouse Quilt sampler, the fall sampler. And this is the fall sampler quilt that I've been working on. So this is what we're going to start making today. And the first step that we're going to take is we're going to learn how to mark the back of your quilt. I use a method called back basting, which I really like back basting because you actually draw your pattern on the back of your quilt. Therefore, if you can't cover up your marks, it's not a big deal. And believe me, if you haven't done any applique, it can be very difficult to get all of your marks covered. So this is a technique I really like. You're going to need to go to my blog and click and download this pattern and print it. Now, one thing you got to remember about printers is there's a little gap on all printers that is not going to print. It's not going to print all the way to the edge. That's okay. So I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. These are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And the 7th page that you will download and print is a materials list. That's to start you off with. There's a few other things you'll be using as we go on, but nothing unusual. Okay, the first thing you're going to do, these lines, the way I did this, is you're going to match up these lines, and it will look like there's a gap. And you may not be able to see it here, but hold it up to the light if that's what it takes, and underneath you can see that the lines match up. And you're going to match top to bottom first, and you're going to tape it. And you're going to match the next one, top to bottom, and it doesn't matter if the top overlays or the bottom overlays, just whatever works for you. But you're going to match these lines. Keep moving it till you match. And if it helps you then to fill out this little blip here that the printer's not going to get, then do it. It might make it easier for you when it comes to the tracing part, because it's there. It's just because of the printer it doesn't print it. That's why I overlapped these this way. So you're going to match top to bottom, and then you're going to put the sides together. And on this one, there is about a half an inch overlap on most of these. So just kind of guess at it. It is not exact. That's one thing I like about quilting, is it doesn't have. You can kind of fudge a little bit on some of this. It's an art thing. And as long as it looks good here, because trees, I mean, no two trees are the same. So you're going to match these up and tape it on the sides. And then you're going to have this whole piece taped together. Now, because it's just easier to maneuver for the filming, I'm not going to tape this together to show you the next step. We're just going to take one so that you can see it, and I'm going to show you the tracing process. But you're going to take your whole pattern, and you're going to take your fabric. Hold on just a second, Alan. You're going to take your fabric, and you're going to be drawing this to the back of your fabric. Now, I've just got some muslin here because it's easier for you to see, but we're going to pretend this is the back of the fabric. So you're going to lay it out where the back of your fabric's this way, and then you're going to put your pattern, pretend this is the whole thing, and you're going to center it. Now, the way I center my pattern, and your piece, when you cut your background, you're going to cut it at 26 by 19. And I will cut that rectangle, and I will just do a finger press. And I've always starched my fabric, so it's going to finger press pretty well. You're going to do a finger press just like this. I don't like to do it with an iron. Sometimes that's hard to get out. But see, you've got lines here. Then you're going to take your whole pattern. This is the back. This is the back of your pattern. You're going to be drawing this in reverse, okay? And you're going to take this and basically, it may be better to do it from the front here, but you want to see the back. Your back is facing your front, like this. So you're going to center your pattern on the front up, back to back, like this. then you're going to pin it. Okay. And just center it as best as you can. You're going to square this up later. This isn't one of those patterns that you have to have everything hitting certain points. It's not that precise a pattern. I made it that way on purpose. But basically, when you turn it back over to look at the top, you're going to have, this is the front of your fabric, the top of your fabric, the right side, and this is your pattern, the top part or the right side of your pattern. Now, we're going to go to the Lightbox and you'll see how this works. Now this is my Lightbox, one that I put together a year or so ago. And it's just simply a plastic box that I got at a office supply store, and a light bulb kit, lamp kit is what it's actually called. And I wired it together and just drilled a hole and stuck it in there using a low wattage bulb. And it works really well. And you see, when you lay this on here, this is your back, you can see this pattern coming through. It may not come through on the, I'll try and show this here. You can see it. And this is the reverse, and you're drawing on the back side of your fabric. So, you're going to take, and for this I always use either, if the fabric is dark enough that my line is not going to come through, you can't see it through the other side, which this one you can't, I use one of the Micron permanent archival marking pens. I like the .005. They're a very fine tip. If it's going to show through, if it's a really light fabric, and sometimes I've worked with those, I will get just a cheap mechanical pencil. Those will mark, but the line doesn't come through, and you might have to retrace it if you handle it a lot, but I usually have enough left that I don't have to reach, that I can see it. And all you're going to do at this point with your whole pattern, and I've pinned it, as you can see, because I'm going to be moving this pattern all over my Lightbox, and I don't want it to get off. And you may have to pin it in the middle. This is a very small example, so I didn't do that. But you're simply just going to trace through onto the back, like this. You're just going to follow these lines. All the way until you have the whole thing traced. Now sometimes with this, and I've noticed this, it's hard to tell where you've traced. So you may actually have to pick up your pattern and look at it and say, okay, I need to trace this one. And that's the tracing process. There's one other thing I needed to tell you. If you'll remember, when I put the pattern together and you look at the pattern, there are not any leaves drawn all over the tree like you see in the finished quilt, and I did that on purpose. I gave you two leaf shapes, and what I did, and I will explain this when we get to this part, is I made up, out of several different colors of fabric, about 10 leaves a piece, and I'll show you how to do that, and then I placed them where I wanted them, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So don't trace this. That's just for you as a reference point for later whenever we make the leaves. Do not trace those. Everything else you're going to trace. I also didn't include the moon in mine. Trace it on there. I did, and when I put it on, I just didn't like it, but I left it in case you like it. You can do it. It just didn't appeal to me after I got it there. But if you want it, it's on the pattern for you to include on your quilt. That's all. Get this done, and then next week we will start building our outhouse. I look forward to seeing you next week on Fronterhouse Quilt Blog.